Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're heading deep into Russia's Ural Mountains to tackle one of the most chilling and persistent mysteries of the 20th century, the Dyatlov Pass incident. It's a story of survival, of sheer terror, and a puzzle that for over 60 years has just refused to be solved.
So picture this. It's February 1959. A rescue team is searching in the remote, frozen wilderness. They find a tent, but it's not just abandoned. It has been violently sliced open from the inside. All the group's equipment, their supplies, everything is still there. But leading away from the tent into the brutal cold are 9 sets of footprints. Some are just in socks, some are completely bare, in temperatures that dropped to 40 degrees below zero.
And that, right there, is the heart of the mystery. What could possibly be so terrifying that it would drive 9 seasoned hikers out of their only shelter and into a deadly blizzard? To really get how bizarre this is, we first have to understand who these people were.
Yeah, this was not some group of amateurs who got in over their heads. These were young, incredibly fit people, most of them engineering students from the Ural Polytechnical Institute.
Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, was just 23 years old, but he was already a really skilled outdoorsman. The only one who wasn't part of that student group was Semyon Zolotaryov, who was a 38-year-old ski instructor and a decorated war veteran. So, these were tough people.
And their experience is absolutely key here. Every single one of them was a Grade 2 certified hiker. This trip was supposed to be their final test to get Grade 3 certification, which was the highest honor for a mountaineer you could get in the Soviet Union. These weren't just hobbyists, they were practically experts. And that is what makes what happened next so completely incomprehensible.
It's really their expertise that makes all the evidence so baffling. The scene of their deaths wasn't just a tragic accident. It was a collection of bizarre, contradictory clues that have stumped investigators for decades.
So, the victims were discovered in 2 separate groups. The first 6 were found scattered between a small makeshift fire and the camp. Officially, they all died of hypothermia. But the last 3, they were found months later in a ravine, and they had died from catastrophic internal injuries.
The autopsy report just made things even more perplexing. 2 of the hikers had crushed rib cages. Another had a fractured skull. But here's the truly weird part. There were almost no external wounds, no bruises, no cuts at all. The medical examiner actually wrote that the force required to do that kind of damage was like being hit by a car. It was as if they had been crushed from the inside.
And the bizarre discoveries just kept coming. One victim was missing her tongue and her eyes. And to make it all even stranger, some of their clothes were found to be radioactive. None of it added up.
The official investigation concluded they died from a compelling natural force, and then they just closed the case. This left a huge information vacuum that for 60 years has been filled with all kinds of wild and incredible theories.
For a long time, a lot of people were convinced the hikers must have stumbled onto some kind of secret military weapons test. It would explain the crushing injuries and the radioactivity. And then there were reports from other hikers in the area about strange orange lights in the sky that very same night, which only fueled all the conspiracy theories about a government cover-up.
Then there's a more scientific theory, but it's almost just as eerie. Infrasound. The basic idea is that the unique shape of the mountain, combined with powerful winds, created a low-frequency sound. It's a sound that humans can't hear, but they can feel it. And it's been shown to create feelings of intense, unexplainable dread and panic. So maybe that explains why they fled the tent. But it still doesn't explain those injuries.
And another one is the katabatic wind theory. Okay, so this is a sudden, incredibly powerful blast of cold, dense air that can just come roaring down a mountainside at hurricane speeds. It would have been absolutely terrifying and could have forced them from the tent, for sure. But again, what about those crushing internal injuries? It doesn't quite fit.
So, after decades of speculation, a renewed Russian investigation in 2019, which was later supported by some really sophisticated modeling from Swiss scientists in 2021, finally presented what is probably the most plausible, science-backed explanation to date.
The leading theory now centers on a very specific type of avalanche, a small, delayed slab avalanche. See, the hikers had cut into the snowpack to set up their tent for the night. That cut created an unstable slab of snow right above them. Hours later, in the middle of the night, that slab broke free and came down right on top of the tent. It wasn't a massive avalanche, but it was heavy enough to cause those horrific internal injuries without actually burying them completely.
Now this theory, it changes the entire story. They weren't running away in some kind of blind panic. They were acting rationally. They thought a much larger avalanche was about to hit, so they cut their way out and ran for the relative safety of the tree line. As one investigator said, it was a heroic struggle. They were fighting for their lives, but in the end, the brutal conditions were just too much.
So if we have a pretty convincing scientific answer, why does this story still captivate us so much? Why are we still talking about it more than 60 years later?
I think it's because the story is just more than a collection of facts. The name Dyatlov Pass is now permanently on the map. It's a memorial to the 9 lives that were lost, and it's a monument to a mystery that for so long seemed to defy any logical explanation at all.
The slab avalanche theory is without a doubt the most complete explanation we have. It fits the evidence, and it's backed by science. But does it truly solve the mystery once and for all? Or is it just the best story we can tell with the facts that we have? Maybe the enduring power of the Dyatlov Pass incident is that it reminds us that even in our modern scientific world, there's still some stories that defy easy answers, and some places where the unknown still holds a truly terrifying power.